It was a tremendous trip and a tremendous victory, I think, for clean energy that Germany has achieved. My take-home message from that, here's a country that has an 80 gigawatt load, and they've succeeded in installing 70 gigawatts of renewable, 35 of wind and 35 of solar. And at the same time, they're divesting themselves over time of their nuclear assets. So they've shut down half their nuclear fleet. And despite all of these changes, which cost money, the country is succeeding. They have a very low unemployment rate. They have a very healthy industrial sector. They have an electric grid that is actually stronger and more reliable than ours here in California. And so while there's many legitimate criticisms to be made of how they went about doing their program, that they maybe paid more than they should have, the net result is that Germany is succeeding as a country and has really led the way on renewables for the world. Well, I think collaboration between California and Germany is critical. I think a challenge like climate change is only solved through collaboration, and clearly both places have established themselves as leaders on climate. To begin with, I think we need to continue the dialogue on a regular basis, and we talked about that when we were there as part of the delegation. Is the next step is having some German officials come over here and see what we're doing. One thing that we're doing, I think, quite well in California is building large-scale projects. So we have the largest wind project in the world, largest solar thermal project in the world, the largest thin-film solar PV and crystalline solar PV projects in the world. And I think the German officials are interested in that. And also, I think the effectiveness of our ability to integrate variable renewables into the grid. So I look forward to that as a next step. But hopefully we can continue to forge agreements, between California and Germany and potentially partner on technology development as well. Absolutely. So one of the best parts of the trip to Germany for me was visiting the BMW electric vehicle factory. And so interestingly, it's almost exactly the same size as our electric vehicle factory here in California, Tesla. Both facilities are producing about 700 electric vehicles a week and are scaling up. And so I think there's a lot of parallels to be made and potentially some mutually beneficial technology development. If you look at, lithium-ion batteries, for example, I think would benefit, both countries and both companies. So I think there's an avenue there as well. Yeah, I think one of the hardening things for myself and my fellow commissioners who are on the trip with me is to be reminded again about how many talented, relentless, innovative leaders there are, both in local and regional and national government in Germany, who are absolutely dedicating their lives to combating climate change and to making this transition to a clean energy future that we need to make. Just enormously impressed with the people that we met with there. Everybody from academics to leaders in government to business leaders across the board. It was a wonderful experience, and I found myself coming back here to California more energized than ever because of it.
Well, first of all, I have to say it was my first time in Germany, and it was an absolutely beautiful country. And so I can understand why there's such a keen interest in environmental protection and sustainability there. And so one of my key takeaways is just the importance of leadership on energy and environmental issues and real commitment from at the utility level, at the local, regional, and national government in terms of promoting sustainability. So I personally went there because I was interested in learning more about renewable energy and energy storage and in the ways in which California and Germany could connect. And so one of my takeaways was you can't think about renewable energy or energy storage in a vacuum. You really need to have a comprehensive policy and approach. And it needs to be complemented by demand-side management, so investing in energy efficiency, demand response, as well as renewables. You also have to be really thoughtful about your investments in fossil generation because I think both California and Germany still have investments in fossil fuels even as we're trying to pursue a renewables future. A couple other observations. One is that the pricing mechanisms matter. And so in order to promote renewables, it's good to have strong incentives, but these incentives need to be flexible because the market conditions can change pretty rapidly. And so, how do you adapt, whether it's a feed-in tariff or a megawatt target when the prices are lower or higher for renewable generation? And I'll finally add that on energy storage, I learned and just really understood how important it is to have it as a resource to integrate renewables, and that energy storage comes in many different flavors and varieties. So what was impressive about Germany's efforts on this front are the investments in power-to-gas projects, so using excess renewables to produce hydrogen. And there's a number of demonstration projects on the ground. While in California, we've started to look at this issue, but we have more investments in energy storage through batteries. And so I think we can exchange information through these various pilots about these different technologies so that ultimately they'll all become available for each of us to use. So in transportation, what's interesting is that both California and Germany are pursuing zero-emission vehicles, both fuel cell vehicles that run on hydrogen and electric vehicles. In particular, it seems that there's a greater focus in Germany on some of the hydrogen vehicle deployment at this point, and California is just starting to ramp up its investment in that infrastructure. So I think we can exchange information on siting, about cost, and particularly how to get renewable hydrogen. On electric vehicles, we've got an aggressive program here in California on the vehicle deployment and the charging. And in the conversations I had with Germans, we have the same questions in front of us. Where's the best place to site charging? What's the rate you should set for it? And so those are lessons that we can exchange across us, both in policy design, technology support, and tariff design.
So having worked with the Renewables 100 Policy Institute, as well as the German side for a few years, and being familiar with the ambition of California, as well as the energy transition, the Energiewende in Germany, it became increasingly apparent that there are a lot of similarities between Germany and California, where we should be working together in order not to reinvent the wheel, but collaborating to bring solutions to the forefront that both sides could benefit from. And specifically in the area of grid integration and operating the grid and making sure that we're able to integrate not only more renewables in larger percentages. Germany has ambitious goals, California has ambitious goals, but also the technologies that will facilitate the future increase of renewables on the grid, such as storage, demand response, energy efficiency. It seemed that it would be great to get together with German grid operators, with California utilities, with the California ISO, with policymakers, and make sure that we're discussing the issues and that we have a path forward to collaborate. California ISO, the California grid operator, was able to meet with colleagues in Germany. We were able to discuss technologies. We were able to discuss opportunities for collaboration. The Germans were extremely excited about our ability to automatically dispatch and run the grid and being able to incorporate more renewables on a market basis. And they've been able to be incredibly successful in integrating renewables manually onto their grid. And it's also becoming increasingly clear that as a result of this trip, there are going to be numerous opportunities for collaboration, both in the fields of policymaking as well as technology transfer and technology know-how, and in the fields of market and market development for integrating renewables onto the grid and the market mechanisms that are necessary to move us forward. Already the ISO is going to be meeting with German utilities as well as German grid operators, and indeed European grid operators as well. And we're also meeting with German policymakers on the state and on the federal level, and pushing the ideas forward that together we can accomplish more than working individually on our own.